I've never seen Destiny act like that. And she acts weird all the time. I thought to myself later that night as I ducked to dodge an overhanging limb on the way back down the sidewalk from my first delivery. It was hard keeping my thoughts straight that night, until I got the delivery that took me to the Dirty Work Inc. building. As I walked up to the door, I could hear them speaking from inside. So, against my better judgment, I stopped and eased my ear up to listen.
All I'm saying is that I'm not sure we should have took that job. He's bringing too much heat down for one dead guy.
One of them said.
Shut it!
Mark shouted.
I already told you to keep it down about that in this room. When those delivery pricks are supposed to be on their way.
Taking that as my cue, I knocked on the door. What do you want? Oh, it's you. Here, Mark growled, shoving another plastic container through the door. Now beat it. Pleasure as always, I mumbled as I turned away from the door, only to almost run headfirst into Han Lao, of all people. Oh, hey, Han, what's new? I asked sheepishly, but he didn't answer. Instead, he just stood there with that scowl on his face. So, Han, while I got you here, you, noticed anything unusual around here lately? I asked, wondering if you might have. You mean like someone riding a bicycle around in my dead sister's body? What? How did you? I tried to ask. I know you know my history. Do you really think after how you started acting weird around me, I wouldn't know everything that goes on around you? When you wake up, when you fall asleep, when you leave, when you come home, when you cook, when you clean, when you eat, when you shit. Who's with you? And you're not mad? About her body? No. Julie is dead. Whatever's left is burned or buried. Used by someone else makes no difference to me, he said, leaning in close to my face. But how she got that way? That I'm mad about. That's perfectly understandable, I mumbled as my mouth started to dry out, making it hard to speak. But then my heart was about to leap out of my chest as Han reached out and shoved me to the side to make way to the door. Oh, damn it, I groaned when I saw another third-tier icon on the screen. Oh, wonderful! I added when I saw that the drop-off was all the way across town, meaning I would have to haul all kinds of ass to get there in a reasonable time. Made all the better when I saw that it was a location I'd never delivered to before. So after doing the cycling equivalent of triple overtime, I finally made it. As I heaved and wheezed, I practically crawled off the bike. No. Bullshit. I call bullshit. I groaned when I looked up and saw the woods from before. Hey, no, this ain't okay. These trees were in a completely different spot across town last time. What the hell? I grumbled on. You know what? Fuck it. I'm in no mood for this right now, I told myself, stomping forward into the tree line. I waited and waited as I walked deeper and deeper into the darkness of the small forest. I waited until... so you finally returned to atone for what you did to us. The voices from before all spoke from around the shadows. Yeah, no, fuck you. Fuck your mind games. Fuck your goofy-ass bootleg 100-acre woods. I'm over it. Here's your sketchy people meet. I'm out, I said as I tossed the container on the ground and turned to walk away. You're a little rude for someone who hasn't gotten that tip yet, aren't you? The shadowy figure I almost ran into said. Oh, you didn't even jump. That's no fun. Yeah, well, compared to what I'm dealing with now, you ain't all that scary, I told it plainly. Move. I will not. Not until I get an explanation for this sudden change. Explain this, I answered, grabbing a handful of my junk, my inner New Yorker creeping to the surface. Now I'm really interested, it hummed as it moved to block me. What do you care? I asked, getting more than a little fed up. What are you? The spirit of noisiness or something? Not quite. I'm more like the spirit of Schadenfreude, he said with a hint of malice in his voice. Spirit of shit and what now? Schadenfreude. It's a German word. It means the joy you get from another person's misfortune. It explained sinisterly. That seems kinda wrong. Oh, are you sure? It asked, almost forcing me to think about Harley and the apartment. Am I to believe you're a saint that's never taken delight in someone else's misery? So virtuous. Well, no, but... I started to argue, but stopped myself when I remembered that whatever this thing was, it could probably see what I was thinking to some degree. And I remembered the old saying, don't bullshit a bullshitter. As fun as this has been here, I backpedaled, tossing the container I picked back up into his hands, giving me a distraction to stroll past. See you again soon, it called out from behind me. Very soon. Whoa, what the hell happened to you? A chorus of voices called as I walked back inside my apartment. Do you all just live here now? I snapped grumpily as my eyes passed over Destiny, Risa, Madison, and, even more to my surprise, Abigail. No, really though, are you okay? Destiny asked first, noticing the holes in my clothes, the dirt everywhere, and the blood running down my arms, legs, and face. Some fart-huffing, ass-wood son of a bitch bastard hung a chain across the narrow path I take on my way home every night. It was painted black so I didn't even see it coming as I hit it at full speed. Bike stop? I didn't, I grumbled, pissily throwing my food bag across the room, kicking my shoes off against the wall, and slinging my shredded shirt onto the stairs. Oh wow, that sounds kinda... Shh! Shh! I hushed Madison as she tried to speak, holding a finger to her face. I am in no mood, I warned her, my finger still up. I've had one hell of a shit night. Oh, and Risa, Han knows, I added as I stomped up the stairs. Oh, okay. Wait, what? I heard a shriek from behind me, but I just kept walking to get to the bathroom so I could take a shower and pick the gravel out of my skin. I think 4 people might be a few too many for this. I sighed as I laid face down on the living room floor. Risa, Destiny, Madison, and Abigail sat around me, picking the debris out of me with tweezers. Well, 3 people in Madison. Ow, bitch! I yelled as she wrenched a big piece out of me with the tenderness of a bear mauling. Shut up. This is kinda fun, Destiny said, which Risa agreed with. So, Flavortown made you Ralph, but digging pebbles out of my body, shredding flesh is totally fine? Not the same, she growled, shivering a little at the thought. If you say... Hey, you guys hear that? I interrupted myself mid-sentence. Something's going on outside again. I added, picking myself up off the floor and opening the front door to see some tall, mean-looking lady strolling away from the office and getting into a car that drove off into the night. Looking back over at the office, I saw Holly on her hands and knees bawling hysterically. What's going on? I asked as I stood over her. She took it back. She whimpered into her hands. Who took what? That's unhelpfully vague. There was Athena. I'm not a vassal anymore. I'm just... normal, she explained, still crying. You have to do certain things to stay one. I wasn't very good about it to begin with, but with buying this place, I just didn't have the time. I'll bet you are just loving this, ain't you? She asked, finally looking up at me. I bet this makes you happy to see me like this. Losing everything. Schadenfreude, I whispered to myself, thinking back to the woods and what the thing said to me. Well, maybe at one point, but this is just sad now. I think it's just best you...
Who's this now? Oh, hey! I met you before.
Madison's irritating voice said from behind me.
Ain't this your landlady? What's her face? What's she all bent out of shape about?
Oh my god, could you please not right now, You rang? I heard the deep voice of a man I didn't recognize speak over me as the faint smell of smoke and sulfur hit my nose. I looked over my shoulder to see an older Middle Eastern looking man with grayish white hair and a beard, wearing a stark white three-piece suit accompanied by a couple of people dressed close to how he was. What really stood out was his crystal blue eyes. And suddenly I couldn't help but remember the man I met at the park bench that one night. That was the only time I had felt anything like this before. I don't... What? I stammered, trying to figure out what was going on and getting sick from random drama unfolding in the parking lot in the middle of the night. Why does it smell like an egg just farted through an air freshener?
Why are you here? Abigail suddenly yelled as she darted across the lot, sliding to a stop in front of the stranger.
Someone said they saw Athena skulking around in this area, so I thought I'd come see what might bring someone like her all the way out here in the middle of nowhere.
That's not what I meant, and you know it, she shouted at the man who just responded with a grin.
Not often I run into someone who can recognize me. That's inconvenient. Part of the whole image is being everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So I think the better question is, what brings you, of all people, here? First Athena, then the most troublesome little abomination that you are. And all for what, might I ask?
The man spoke in a deep voice as he looked over the shabby apartments. You just don't like running into people who know you're con, Abigail erupted at him. Hey, you got beef with this guy? Who is he anyway? I asked her. Yahweh, the guy behind the God in the Bible. And yeah, we have beef, she answered, causing my jaw to resume its usual position on the ground. Oh, should I get on my knees or do the cross thing or something? I whispered in her ear, kind of panicking a little. Don't you dare. He got to where he is today because he piggybacked off of the work Hephaestus did in the early years of humanity and civilization and snuck himself into some old Canaanite mythology as a fire and light god, then condescended them into worshipping him as the one and only god. He's the world's greatest con man. Don't you dare kneel to him.
That's so unflattering when you say it like that, he said, finally speaking again. You can't blame me, though. While all those others were fighting and squabbling, trying to prove who's the biggest and strongest, I realized that it didn't matter who was or wasn't. As long as people think you are, then nothing else really matters. I stopped bothering with all the fighting and clawing for power amongst the other gods of the time. I was the one who focused on the hearts and minds of the people. A little miracle here, a little creation myth there. And look at me now. Nobody is up on stage defending Thor or Poseidon or Ra. Of course, I didn't create the universe. But I could walk right up to the devout follower, tell them who I am, say I didn't do it, and they'd call me a liar and go right on defending me as the prime mover, the maximum powerful first cause, the one true living God. You can't beat that kind of following. Just look at the Bible. Have you ever read that thing? How many people did I kill just in there? Granted, most of that never happened. But they think it did. And they still worship me. So many gods, but I'm running the proverbial show. And to think I started just like these two pathetic humans.
He went on, pointing at me and Harley.
Hey, want to know a little secret? I owe it all to a book, ironically enough. This strange old thing I ran into millennia ago. I didn't even know what to call it. Books didn't exist back then. But there it was. I started reading it and learning so many things about a monstrous being beyond this world. The book showed me ways to make myself stronger, more powerful, a literal god among men. Tools to help me bring this being in the world. But then I thought, why? Why would I give it all to ruin and rot? Why not make it mine instead? So I did, and hid the thing away where nobody else could find it.
Once he finished, he reached down to pick up Harley off the ground.
You look like you're in a tough spot, young lady. How about I offer you...
But before he could finish speaking, Destiny, poofed up next to him.
You!
He suddenly barked at her when he saw her.
Is your father here?
No, but I can go get him, if you want me to. she said in a sinister tone. "It would only take a second."
You've made your point,
he said in response. "Hey, did you just do an evil monologue?" I asked, finally finding a reason to speak.
Come again?
He asked, but was interrupted. "Now why are you here in L.A.? Abigail hissed again.
Oh, right. Well, the worship isn't exactly like it used to be. So I'm adapting my tactics, so to speak. I hear some of the other paranormals like myself are going to business for themselves. I expect that's what has Athena snooping around high-income areas lately. So I thought I should stay with the times. People are more concerned with the almighty dollar than the almighty these days. And what better time? Anyone who could cause trouble is out of my way. Hephaestus is slumming it in that hellhole town down south. Fudomu is me knows where. And those three don't bother me unless I bother them. I pretty much have free reign around here right now."
"Why would you just tell us all of that for the asking?" I asked, and got my answer in the form of a malicious look that said, "Because you're not going to get the chance to tell anyone else better than any words ever could." "Not if I have anything to say about it, you don't," Abigail said when he stopped. Her and Destiny both had the same look in their eyes as they glared at him with the tension in the air began to build, and build, and build. Then, all hell broke loose in a split second. As soon as Destiny twitched, he had his hand around her throat. Abigail lunged at him, but he brought a closed fist of his other hand straight up into her chest, causing blood to gush from her mouth as she crumpled to the ground. Destiny's feet were now dangling above the rough gravel, her neck still constricted in his grip.
Might not be able to kill your kind so easily, but I can hurt you really bad. Over and over and over,
he said with a gleeful grin as Abigail clutched the chest.
But you,
he added, looking at Destiny struggling in his hand, as it began to glow red, then yellow, then white hot as it seared the flesh underneath.
Can't have you running off and telling your dad of yours that I'm in town, can I? So much pain makes it too hard to travel, doesn't it?
Before I could even bring myself to think of something that I could do to help, it all happened so fast. Abigail was holding up her phone, the screen shining through the night. "Yeah, we definitely can't have that," she said as she pressed something on it.
What was that? What did you just do, you little abomination?
He began to roar, but before he even had time to finish, I felt a wave of heat. The same time, a flash of lightning flared to life from one side of me as a familiar figure stepped out of the blaze. Hep had just showed up out of nowhere, phone with a lit text screen clutched in his gnarled hand. Before I had time to say anything, I heard Destiny's feet hit the ground, along with a freshly severed arm as a vicious black mist tore its way across the dimly lit parking lot. "Are you okay?" I heard the Count's voice speak to a coughing Destiny, prioritizing his daughter over the one-armed man.
"Just the two of you, huh?"
he said, as glowing light emerged from the stump and began to reform the shape of his missing limb.
"Well, luckily for me, I can use technology too."
He sneered, snapping his new fingers, signaling the two with him to move to the side and flip a switch on something, causing strangely colored lights to flood the whole area. Once it hit the Count and Destiny, they both flinched and vanished into black mist. "It's UV!" I heard Abigail yell as she dove behind the wall to shield herself from it.
"So that just leaves you, I suppose?"
he said to Hep, who was squinting from the light in his eyes.
"Yep. Except it don't. I reckon it ought to take him a little longer, but any second now."
Hep answered, not sounding even a little worried.
"You seem kind of brave to be in your situation."
"No, not really. You ain't never been one I've been all that scared of. But I'll tell you who does scare me. That man whose daughter you just hurt real bad. And even more than him, well..."
As Hep trailed off, another fire exploded into the middle of the lot. But this was very much not the same. A monolithic, raging inferno blazing and swirling far up into the night sky, right where the two men in the LED light used to be. When the flames died down, standing in the center of a ring of molten gravel, "You were warned," Fudo spoke matter-of-factly to the now visibly shaken biblical figure in front of me. "I don't know how you subvert my sight,
But I did take measures to make sure I would be alerted if you were to step out of line again. It would appear you have done so.
No sooner did he finish speaking, the Count was back, charging full force out of his swirling mist. Then, suddenly, in a flash of white light, the man was gone.
So it would seem this problem has resurfaced,
he said with frustration in his voice. I guess so, Abigail answered, stepping out from her cover. But right now, she said, turning back to look at the numerous curious and frightened faces of the apartment residents staring out of the windows, we have a more immediate issue to deal with. I think I actually might be able to pull something out of my ass again with the right phone call. I spoke up.
Thank you, everyone. If anyone hasn't signed the release yet, please let me know. And don't forget your contact information so we can reach you if we have any issues.
Madison called out from the crowd of people we had somehow just bullshitted into believing just witnessed a filming of a big-budget, guerrilla-style blockbuster movie. I managed to get Relic to warp some prop cameras, as they use fake cameras in movies when they film a scene where someone's making a movie in a movie. I remembered Abigail had sitting in a shop. Along with that, we managed to fashion a reasonably convincing release for the residents to sign to use their likeness and property in the movie. The ridiculousness of the situation was really the most convincing aspect of it all. It just screamed B-movie plot. I still can't believe it worked though. Once everything quieted back down and Relic had quantum bullshitted the prompts back to Abigail's shop, he was nice enough to drop me off at the manor to check on Destiny. Thank you so much, I told him once we were there. I hate having to ask, but it was really the only thing I could think of at the time, and I'm sorry I missed movie night.
It's okay. Given the circumstances of tonight, I would say you have a good excuse. We can always reschedule.
He replied with a gentle wave before vanishing again. Oh, holy shit, there you are! Are you okay? I'm so sorry I'm such a useless shit! I croaked when I found Destiny in one of the bathrooms. Oh, wow, that looks like it really hurts. I added when I saw the perfect handprint burned into her neck. Over time, I noticed she doesn't heal super fast like the other kind of vampires or her dad. Probably because her mom was just a regular person. It does. It hurts so bad. She whimpered as she tried to put on some kind of cream on it, which I soon noticed was the stuff Hook's wife had given me when my face got slashed up. Oh, that's a good idea. Here, let me help, I said, taking the small jar from her. It helps with the pain a lot, too. Like, a lot, I told her as I gently dabbed some on the burn. I'm going to have this forever, aren't I? She suddenly said as her eyes started to water and her lip began to quiver. It's so ugly. I don't know. I'm not sure how you heal compared to me, but even so, scars are kind of badass, right? And you got this one from, well, I don't even know what to call him. God doesn't sound quite right now. Yahweh, I guess. So that's a pretty cool way to get a scar, right? I fumbled around. But it's so ugly. What if you're like kissing my neck or something and you get to this big gross burn all over it? She asked almost in a panic. Well, first of all, we both know I've had my mouth on things a lot. Better not let the Count hear any of that talk, Dr. Jekyll interjected as he strolled by the bathroom and peeked inside. Especially tonight. That'd be the end of old Jose's story if he did. Oh hell, that does look like it hurt something awful. He's really back running around now, is he? Boy, things are about to get interesting around here, he added as he wandered off down the halls of the manor. I spent the bulk of the next day mulling things over, keeping in mind that I still had all the other stuff to deal with. Yeah, that shit wasn't built up at all, was it? Well, imagine how I felt. I still had Risa's death, some random dead driver, therapy, and all that other nonsense. So after a while, I decided that my hunch about the Cerber guy was enough to go off of. So I'd tell Adeline about it. So I figure at the very least the idea of him trying to move in on her turf might be motivation enough for her to use her resources to do something about it. It was decided. I was gonna tell Adeline. Tomorrow. Hey, give me a break, I'm still terrified of snakes. And Risa said she'd actually be in town that day. so I could at least show how serious I was by doing it in person.
Blah.
Plus, I was still mad sore from doing a header over my handlebars the night before. I was pretty sure I chipped a bone in my shin and still had shit under my skin that had yet to be dug out.
Who would have thought goblins had such steady hands, huh?
The gunman I now know as Louis said as his pet goblin gingerly picked gravel out of me as we sat in my apartment. Don't ask how we even got to this point. I remember opening the door and that's about it. Alcohol was involved. Yeah. So anyway, you really have a thing with Harley? I asked him. How'd that come about?
Oh, well, kinda. She seems to be coming a little unglued right now, though. I mean, the lady didn't seem all that there to start with. But there's a level of crazy I'm willing to deal with, and a level I'm not, you know?
He explained. Actually, I do. I really do. Have you seen Risa? I suddenly thought to ask him as the goblin continued its tweezing.
You mean Franken-Asian? Yeah, she left with some chick in really weird makeup a few hours ago.
Chicken weird makeup? Describe.
Let's see, about yay tall, mid-length body kinda, yeah. Sounded like she was from back home.
Fucking Madison! I shouted, jumping up off the couch to grab my bike and tear out the door.
You two don't steal any of my shit.
I yelled back at Louis as I left. Not knowing exactly where I was headed, I just rode around hoping to happen across them against all odds. Crazy makeup and stitched together Chinese girl, how hard can it be? I kept asking myself as I continued looking, until... Holy shit, no way, there they are! I yelped under my breath as I stopped behind a sign. They were both sitting at an outside table of a small cafe, Madison's face painted up like a skull, which was getting them more than a few odd looks. Okay, what gives? I asked myself as I hopped off my bike and crept close to hear what they were saying. So are you gonna explain the face paint or what? I heard Risa ask as I got closer and ducked behind a short brick wall. And why you told me not to wear any makeup today?
Oh yeah. Well, I figured if I painted my face up all crazy like this, people would think we both have makeup on. And you could go out somewhere with your face out in the open and not be so self-conscious the whole time. I love your makeup.
A random girl said to them as she walked by.
Thank you. See? It worked.
Madison said to Risa as the girl passed.
Stop spying on them.
Destiny's voice suddenly hissed in my ear. Holy hell, how did you even...
I knew as soon as Risa told me that she decided to let Madison take her out that you'd try to snoop. So I followed in just in case.
She explained as my heart tried to return to a normal rhythm. So you stalked them because you thought I was going to stalk them?
Wait. Yes? Just leave them alone. You saw how nice Madison is being to Risa. I know you're worried about her, but she's going to be fine. Now let's go home.
Okay, today's the day, I crowed nervously to myself as I got ready to leave to tell Adeline what I knew.
Are you going to be okay?
Destiny asked as I slugged my bag over my shoulders. Yeah, she's probably not going to be in the very best mood, but I should make it out in one piece, I told her, only about half convinced myself. A little while later, I finally rolled into the warehouse parking lot to see an SUV Charisse used to drive around. It was sitting outside, and I noticed at the same time I noticed another unfamiliar one pulling out of the lot.
We made it! We finally made it!
Someone unexpectedly shouted from behind me, almost making me fall off my bike. I snapped my head around to see Risa and Madison both rolling into the parking lot together.
Jose, guess what? We just passed! We can work for Cerber now too!
Risa called out to me when she saw me watching them. Damn, you just scared the hell out of me, I shouted back at her.
Hey, what are you doing here?
Madison asked as she rolled to a stop next to me. I've got to go in and tell the boss something while she's in town, I answered before an evil thought crossed my mind. Like me, Madison was also terrified of snakes. Hey, speaking of, why don't you come in and meet your new boss while she's here? Make a good first impression.
Oh yeah, that does sound like a good idea. Good call, Jose.
She agreed excitedly. Right this way, I directed her with malicious glee in my eyes. Sweet, sweet payback.
Huh, you say something?
What? No, why? I asked back, not realizing I just said it out loud. Anyway, her office is this way, I added, directing them to where Adeline could usually be found in the building. But when we got there, the office was empty. She must be in the back of the warehouse area. It's right through here, I told him as I opened up the double doors to the area where I first met Adeline. Hey Adeline, are you in here? I got something I need to run by you. I trailed off as I rounded the corner to one of the rows of shelves to find Adeline, mid-conversation with Sobek. Both their eyes were now locked on me as I stood frozen in place, unable to find any words remotely applicable to this situation.
Jose, what brings you down here?
Adeline asked as I stood there in a state of shock, trying to think of how to react. Then it all clicked. The very first thought I had before Relic even mentioned Sobek. The thought I chose to ignore for my own sake. It had to be right, or at least half right. Adeline was behind it. She fit the bill. She had money and power and influence. She was tied deep into the paranormal community and economy.
What the hell is that?
Madison suddenly shrieked from behind me as she caught up and put eyes on Adeline. No time, just run! I yelled back at her, shoving her and Risa forward as hard as I could. Back the way we came! Go! I desperately instructed both of them.
Jose, wait. Go stop him before he gets out.
I heard Adeline tell the gigantic reptile as they both took off after me. They must have realized what I knew and were trying to keep me quiet.
Don't let him go.
Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. I gasped as I tore through the halls to try to get to the exit behind Madison and Risa. Go! Get back to your bikes and take off! I shouted to them as I reached the door. But just as they did, something caught a hold of my ankle and I went down. God damn it, this is it! I thought to myself as I was lifted up off the ground by one leg. Having one last chance, I felt for the knife Hook gave me and I pulled it out. As I drew it back, ready to stab into the monster's arm, my arm froze in place. I glanced over to see that my whole arm, from my shoulder down, was stone. Ow, what the fuck? I screamed once I saw what had happened. Would you shut up? Adeline hissed at me as she slithered over. It's not permanent if I don't want it to be. Now, if he puts you down, will you promise not to run? Fuck you! Jose, you're pushing it. You're really pushing it right now. Consider your options. Fine. But still fuck you. I surrendered as I was slowly lowered to the floor. Now, I understand you seem to have some concerns. You killed Risa! I suddenly barked at her without thinking. Or he did. I don't know which, but it had to have been one of you. And the politician guy. That was you too, wasn't it? I see what this is about. I think an explanation is in order. You see, you're not wrong. Not entirely, at least. We both had a hand in the assassination you're thinking of. And that does have something to do with the death of your friend. However, you are missing some information. In reality, the man who was assassinated was the one who had Risa murdered. You see, he was pushing so hard for the desegregation of our two worlds because he had been amassing paranormal items, most notably the ones made by Hephaestus. They are virtually priceless, and he was hoarding them hand over fist. While normally those who collect them pay great sums of money to attain them, this man had set out to accumulate as many as possible for as little as possible. That way, virtually everything he made from them would be pure profit. And as much as paranormal beings would pay, imagine what the billionaires of the world would pay for things made by a real ancient god. I don't believe it, I sighed to myself as I stared off into the distance. Jose, you still alive? I heard Risa call from the entrance. Please don't be dead. Oh, yeah, I'm good. Just a misunderstanding. You should get in here. You might want to hear this, I called back to her. I can't believe my new boss is a snake lady. Madison winced as we finally left the warehouse. So, our new neighbor killed the guy who had me killed? And the people he works for killed the guy who actually killed me? Risa asked, trying to straighten things out in her head. Yes and no. Technically, the guy who killed you killed himself. Because Dirty Work Inc. would have tortured him to death. That's not really better, is it? I answered as we walked over to our bikes.
So this is how the job feels all the time?
Madison asked as Risa was lost in thought.
You do this stuff all the time?
Yeah, more or less. I learned to shake it off pretty fast, though. I told her as I typed a message into my phone to the captain. Hey, urgent, Legion of Doom meeting at the manor, I'm on my way. It read. Race you guys to Dracula's house? I asked jokingly as we reached the bikes.
I have to say, Jose, I'm quite impressed. You actually managed to get to the bottom of this before any of us did.
Hook said later that night at the manor.
But there is still the issue of the murdered driver and the sacrificed paranormal entities.
Wait, the other people the guy killed were paranormals?
Well, the culprit was using a Cerber account to commit his acts. I thought that would go without saying. The ultimate goal in this mysterious figure we keep hearing about, however, makes this all the more troubling,
he added, anxiously twisting his mustache. Wait, I just thought of something. Abigail spoke up, making me jump since I didn't know she was even there. In the moment I didn't make the connection, but Yahweh mentioned a book older than books that he could read. I think he's talking about the Dirty Work Inc. book. You know, the one they found. They brought it to me to check it out and I could tell there was something really off about it. And the man that night, he swatted me aside like it was nothing. Can't say for sure. Based on the description Yahweh gave, and what I've seen, maybe it's possible this mystery man found that book and he's trying to summon whatever this being is into our world. When she stopped speaking, the whole room fell silent until Dr. Jekyll of all people spoke up. Well, we got the count on our side and that's something. But, not knowing any more than we do, all we can do is watch and wait for something to happen. Ask around, see what we can find out until then. Ain't like their sense is gonna come walking through the door now, is it?
I have to say I agree with Jekyll. As much as I don't like sitting around, and as much as I was looking forward to a break, we need to stay sharp. We can't have the paranormal world turned on its head, and we certainly can't allow this stranger to accomplish what he seems to be attempting. Jose, he said to me, causing me to, for whatever reason, stand to attention like a jackass. You've done well, my boy. Now just leave the rest to us. You do not have to tell me twice, I exclaimed as I turned to make a dash for the front door. But, he added, bringing me to a halt, if you do happen to notice anything, please come straight to one of us about it.
Maybe now I can finally get a little peace and quiet, I sighed to myself as I plopped down on my couch, resting my head on the back of my arms. Risa was out with Madison again, and Destiny had just left after surprising me with a full King Arthur costume set I had given back to Abigail. When she realized I had traded it for Abigail being our butler for the evening, she went right out and bought the whole thing off Abigail for a fair and square price, brought it right back to me. As I laid there on the couch thinking about everything that had happened, all the conversations and situations, I finally decided, I guess all of this is real, I thought to myself. So, what am I going to do about it? Hey, can I ask you a few questions? I found myself saying to Ryan in the cavern later that night. And now for a message from the writer Joshua. Alright everyone, that brings another season of I Write for Cerber to a close. I can already hear some of you asking about another one, so here's the deal. With any series, the view count will progressively drop as the series goes down. It's just how it goes. No avoiding it. Understanding that, the longer a series goes on and the lower the views per video get, the less the narrators make off of them for their work. So we, as the fans of these stories, have to think of tempering all of this. I already know that if I wrote another season, he'd narrate it no question asked. That's just the kind of guy he is. I just want to interject and say, I am not writing this. This is all Josh.
Thank you, Josh. You're very sweet. And you're not wrong. I would narrate it. Anyway, back to him. So knowing that, I'm making the next season provisional. At the moment I'm typing this, last season finale was 21,987 views. So just shy of 22,000. So if you guys can get this video to 20,000, I'll write another season of this, and another season of Dirty Working to accompany it. I don't mind writing it, but I do mind Temper not making what he needs off of the videos. So spread the word, get more people into it, and you'll have another season. Dude. Until then, I've finally started working on a real book that's set in the worst verse, called Magenta Valley, which you can see some concept art and things like that on the Worst Verse Reddit page if you're curious. How long will things take? Don't know. Keep in mind that I currently make exactly $0 a month writing, even with a Patreon, so it's very much a when I have time affair. Writing doesn't pay the bills, so real work gets priority. I'll also be working on some more short story classic creepypasta style stuff in the time, and we'll get back to the werewolves are arseholes and the rest of the Worst Verse stories as well. And you can always visit the Worst Verse page on Reddit to see artwork of your favorite characters, as well as exclusive stories such as Jose and the Philosopher, inside information and inspiration, as well as discuss the stories and characters with other followers of the stories. So stop by and check that out if you want. Regardless, I'm still having an awesome time getting to see my stories on his channel being narrated by Nature's Temper himself, and it's so surreal that I even got to do the voice of Cerber. This series is so much fun, and it has some of my own personal favorite characters in all of the stories. So with that said, I'll see you all later. Until next time, everyone. Bro. Again, back here as Nature's Temper just talking to you normally. I won't make this get any longer than it already is, but I want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching these, and a big thank you to Joshua for being so kind in that last little chapter there. I will be linking his subreddit in the description, so please check that out. And also, my final thank you goes to Mofucius, who first created Cerber and allowed Joshua to expand his universe into hers. And whilst we're on the topic, I'm very happy to announce that as soon as I can find time, like I did today, I'll be doing the next installation of I Drive for Cerber. Okay, that's everything. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful evening.